Welcome to Village. We are excited to be starting a new series
Yes.
on behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, right. This is the one that gets parents every time, I think.
Who does not want to know, like,
Yeah.
how do you change my child's behavior?
Yes.
And so today we want to talk about those who maybe have been diagnosed or maybe not with something called Oppositional Defiance Disorder, which I actually personally don't believe in.
I'm glad you said that, because that was one of the things that I wanted to bring up. This is one of those really tricky diagnoses where, and even today, like, most psychologists don't entirely agree about it. Some people say unequivocally, yes, it exists, and other people are like, well, no, it's probably a result of all these other things, and this is just how it's manifesting. But to make it simpler, before we get into all that, let's break it down what it is. So, if let's say that you ever come across a child and someone says that kid has ODD, what does that mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Because I know my son, that was one of the diagnoses that he received when he was 6. And I discovered that it was more just him wanting control. He wanted to have control over the decisions that I was making over his life. And when you think about it, they're helpless. They know that we are in charge. They know that they can't just be free. And so that for him, I discovered that when I started giving him choices, or I started to increase our connection, if his cup was full enough, if I needed to take some control over his decisions, the cup was full enough for me to do that, instead of just trying to empty him from like nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is really the crux of it with, it's that oppositional, that defiance disorder. So when we think of those two words, it's in any situation, you have those, the parent and the child are essentially doing this. You say left, he says right. You say up, he says down. And so it can be really frustrating, I think, for parents and caregivers, even teachers, to get into that cycle, because it just feels like an endless power struggle.
Yeah.
And neither of you is winning. Or, at the end of the day, you're both tired, you're both frustrated. It's damaging to the relationship. So I really like, basically, that you said that you don't know if you believe in it, because we need to reframe it. This is looking at behavior like, what is underneath that?
What is underneath?
Yeah. Yes.
I like what Gordon Neufeld says. He calls it counterwell. I really like that. And just this idea that this child needs more autonomy.
Yeah.
Is that the word?
Autonomy.
Anatomy. Maybe they need some of that too.
Anatomy of autonomy. That'll be our next blog post.
Yes, I know what I'm talking about here.
but exactly, right? It's learning how to be flexible, and I think this kind of goes back to those parenting myths about a good parent is in control. But with a kid with ODD, that is not going to work. That's going to, you're just going to perpetuate that cycle and that clashing of wills.
Yes.
So it's being able to relinquish that and say, okay, where are some areas that I don't need to be in control?
Yes.
How can we pick our battles? Does it really matter if their socks match?
No.
It's what's more important, homework or making the bed. Sometimes you have to choose between those things, right?
You really do.
Yeah.
You really do. And if you're the type of parent who likes to have everything just so, there is a part of us that just has to let go.
Yeah.
We just have to. My son is now 11, my oldest, and I could pester him from the moment he wakes up till the time he goes to bed. Because, we're at many decisions being made that are sometimes great, sometimes not. And I've had to let go of a lot of things, like his room. I have to let that go. What he wears, I've had to let that go for more important things, like homework.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think too that this is one of those areas where it's really hard, because you probably get a lot of resistance from other parents and people around you. They're like, well, why don't you just make them do what they're supposed to do?
Yeah.
You're the parent. Be the parent.
Yeah.
Right? It's that kind of attitude that it's a little bit jarring. But with kids like this, it's really looking at that sense of safety and belonging. It's that relational connection, like you were talking about, that cup that has to be full first. Before we're going to get the compliance, before we're going to get all these tasks done that we want them to do. It's like, where do we find those needs? How do we meet them? And the rest of these things will come.
That is solid advice. That's solid. Yeah.
One of the things that I was reading actually, and this is it again. It's a whole bunch on this disorder that you can research if you want. But it was a book on specifically teen girls and ODD and how this is a diagnosis that has been increasing in recent years. And there's a lot of controversy around that because of these gender norms. You know, we say that, well, girls aren't supposed to be, you know, or oppositional and defiant and loud and angry. It's like, well, is that necessarily a bad thing if a girl's that way? She's fighting back. Like, you know, this is good. So how do we say to a kid like that, I love your spirit, but we got to work on your style?
I love that.
Right? Yeah, then this is exactly what she was saying. It's really honoring, okay, this kid, like, wow, they've got so much strength and assertiveness and autonomy. Like, we want to build that up. But how do we, you know, change the way that they go about doing it or help them do it in a more peaceful, conflictual kind of way?
Yes. And then I feel like they feel accepted. That's a big thing, to feel understood.
Yeah.
When a teenager or a child feels like, you get me, that fills their cup a lot. And it helps them harness some of those things, which is powerful. Because opposition, I mean, when I think about my son, I'm thankful that he doesn't just always comply. I'm thankful he questions and doesn't just go with the flow. I think we need more of that in this world.
Absolutely. Like, these are the kids who, you know, given the relational, I guess, needs that they have, if those are met, these are the kids who are going to go on to change the world.
Yes.
Because they're not going to roll over for anybody.
Yes, you're right.
You know, they're going to have that ability to be like, no, I don't want to do that. So it's you know, it is, again, how do we, I guess, find the strengths in some of these disorders?
Yeah.
And how do we reframe them that way so that we're not stigmatizing or labeling these kids, that we can build them up?
Yes. Yeah. It's so good. So much we could say about it. We would love to hear from you. Perhaps your child, or if you're a teacher, some of your students may have this. Yeah. We love when we get people talking. So talk to us. Let us know what you think. Tell us some of your experiences, and we'll see you for the next episode.